present the slide. The slide you presented was for pricing. So when we talk about activity-based costing, is a method of charging overhead to cost units on the basis of benefits received from the particular indirect activity. Now, overheads are indirect activities. They are activities that are not traceable to the production process. They are not traceable to the production process. So activity-based costing is an approach to the costing and monitoring of activities which involves tracing resource consumption and costing final outputs. So when we talk about activity-based costing, is a process that entails the identification of factors or determinants. These determinants sometimes are called, or they are even called cost drivers. They are cost drivers. They determine cost. They determine cost. They are the major cause of cost in an organization. So when you charge cost to a product on the basis of cost driver, what you're doing is activity-based costing. When we talk about cost drivers, there are those things, those activities that must take place for you to incur cost. If those activities are not in place, you won't incur cost. So the number of activities you incur will determine the costs associated with that particular activities. So what are those factors that drive the cost? There are factors that drive the cost. And for example, in a question, you'll be seeing factors like setup cost, you'll be seeing things like material handling cost, you'll be seeing things like material procurement. So I did that you can share the slide so that I can just do some little explanation using taking my time on this. Okay, can you all see my screen? The co-host, can you respond?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes, sir.
let me see what I can do. So when we talk about activity-based costing, I said is a method of charging overhead to cost units on the basis of benefits received from the particular indirect activity. Now, question involving activity-based costing, there will always be a link with what we call the traditional approach. The traditional method sometimes is termed as the conventional method. That is where we use labor hours to determine overhead absorption rate. We use labor hour to determine overhead absorption rate. It can be labor hour, it can be machine hour. Take note, please. The question will be explicit about that. So the traditional method is a system of absorption that was developed over time, but due to certain loopholes in that, some organizations discovered that instead of spreading overhead evenly across elements, across factors that determine cost, no, let's look at which activity is actually driving more cost. Instead of spreading electricity overall based on floor area, in manufacturing accounts, you can actually spread the electricity cost across units, departments. If you recall your manufacturing account, those additional information will tell you divide, apportion electricity, apportion rent based on floor area, based on this, based on feet and the rest. Now, that is the traditional approach. Now, the activity-based costing is saying, no, which unit is occupying more space? They should drive more cost. Which unit is using more power, more electricity? It means we should allocate more overhead in terms of electricity to that unit, not just spreading equally. So this is what activity-based costing is about. That is a costing system that entails the identification of the factors or determinants which cause the cost of an organization's major activities. So activity-based costing is the costing and monitoring of activities, which involves tracing resource consumption and costing the final output. So talking about the traditional approach, I said is a system whereby you allocate costs arbitrarily, yes, arbitrarily, without looking at the factors that actually cause the cost. Yes. So talking about the traditional method, we can use the machine hour or the labor hour to determine overhead absorption rate. Now, how do we determine overhead absorption rate? Using the traditional method. Using the traditional method. How do we do that? There is a formula for that. It is the total overhead. In a question, there will always be total overhead. It will always be given. Traditional method or conventional. So when you see this, any of this, don't say, you've never, all you know is traditional method. This can be interchanged in a question. So the determination of determination of overhead absorption rates which is denoted with this acronym OAR. Take notes. Some people, when they see this, be imagining what is this. I have to write it in full. So it can be total overhead. Some people might term it as budgeted overhead. So it can be total overhead divided by total labor hours, depending on the basis of absorption. So the formula is what? Total overhead divided by total labor hours or budgeted level of activity, depending. Total labor hours. Total labor hours. Take note of this, please. Now, the total labor hours or total machine hour, or let me just put it this way. Let me rewrite this, please. Let me rewrite this.
Yes,
It
sir.
can be
Is it showing now?
okay. I'm already presenting with a Microsoft Word.
Okay.
Yes, I'm already just. You can just hold on with your own slide. Let me do the explanation with the
All right.
Microsoft. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. So it can be budgeted level of activity. Budgeted level of activity. But this budgeted level of activity can now be total labor hours or machine hour. Take notes. Because some people can say, in a question, there is no labor hours. What is given to us is machine hours. So the question will be clear about that, or machine hours. So please take notes. Take note of this. Take note of this. So in a question, you're asked to determine the overhead absorption rate using labor hours or machine hour. You apply this formula. You apply this formula. Now, when we talk about cost drivers, talking about activity-based costing now, cost driver, those activities that drive cost, cost drivers, cost driver, cost drivers are factors. They are factors that cause a change, a change in the cost of activity. Take note of that. Now, how do you determine cost drivers? How do you determine cost drivers? Let me put it as selection of cost drivers. Selection of cost drivers. You know, in a question, you'll be seeing different kind of English: setup cost, dispatching, material handling, inspection cost. You must like those words, read those words, pronounce them, and get used to them. Don't see them as something strange. Yes, those verbs, those actions, ordering, get used to them. Because this question, why I put for this question, I discover so many students used to see it as being complex. Yes. So it was tested in, which year was that? In 2017. So it is now being repeated. It was repeated last year. It was repeated last year. We just change of figure. So I sent those two questions there. I'm going to solve one, then you are going to solve the other one. And I want to see your solution before you go to bed tonight, or even though it's tomorrow morning, before you go to bed, you must solve that other one. The plan is, I've just sent one. Though some people have solved it, no problem. I've sent two questions. I'm going to solve one. You're going to solve the other. Yes, after my explanation of using one of the examples. But I'm going to present a simple example before solving any of those two questions, so that those that don't have period background will have good knowledge of what activity-based costing is all about. Now, selection of cost drivers. We have various forms of cost pool. Cost pool, these are factors that pull cost. And what are they? Let me present some of them in a table. Let me say cost pool. And we have, let me see, cost pool. Then let's see, what are the cost drivers? Cost pool, cost drivers. Now, one of the cost pool we have is ordering cost. Ordering cost. Now, what will lead to ordering cost? Why will you incur ordering cost? Why will you incur ordering cost? You will incur ordering cost when you have orders. When you don't have any dispatch to make, when you don't receive orders from customers, it means you won't incur this cost. It will be dormant. It will be zero. So the more orders you receive, the more costs, ordering costs you incur. Take note. So when you see a question, the number of orders determine the ordering cost. Take note so that when you are asked to determine cost driver rate, your determination of cost driver rate is a function of the numbers of orders that you have in relation to ordering. So it means in a question, when they ask you, what is the cost driver rate? Cost driver rate. It means you must know the total number of orders, then you divide by the ordering cost. The cost driver rate is per order. So when you know the total cost driver in relation to the number of orders, then you divide, you get the driver rate. Take note, cost driver rate is different from overhead rate. Cost driver rate is different from overhead rate. Now, ordering cost. The cost driver for ordering cost will be number of orders. Number of orders. The number of orders. And for the next one, the next form of cost pool can be, let's say, material handling. Material handling. This is a cost pool. It's calling for cost. But the determinant of material handling will be what? It will be how often do you move material from your store, from your warehouse to the production house? From your warehouse to the factory, how often? It means the personnel engaged in moving those materials. How often, how many times do you engage them? It will determine how much you are to pay on material handling. So the number of times, which will be number of material movements, number of material movements will determine the cost of material handling. Sometimes it can be number of production runs. Number of production runs. So how often do you move around to make sure production is set, production is perfect? Number of production runs. It's a cost driver to material handling. Also, another common one is setup cost. Setup cost. The setup cost, the cost driver is how many times you have to set up. You have to set up in various places. You have marketing schedules in a place, you have jingles, you have these, you have marketing activities. Now you need to do some setup and you engage people. So what will determine the cost pool will be what? The number of setup. Number of setup. So it is the number of setup that will determine the cost. The cost of setup. And also we can have things like inspection cost. Inspection cost. For product quality management, there will be need for inspection often to see that product produced meets up with the set of standard by the organization. Now, the cost driver for inspection cost will be what? Number of inspection. Number of inspection. And it can be inspection hours. Inspection hours. And also, another common one is the list is much, but I'll stop listing. I think after this, pick an example. We can have dispatching cost. Dispatching cost. And what will determine your dispatching cost will be what? Will be the number of dispatch. Number of dispatches to determine your dispatching cost. The number of dispatches will determine that. So quite a number of lists to mention, but due to time, I'll be able to mention them. Now, to solve questions on on activity-based costing, there are two things or three steps I would like to highlight. That is, let me say, steps to solve ABC costing. Steps to solve ABC costing. Number one step is for you to identify the activity. Identify the activity. Identify the activity. When you identify the activity, what next do you need to do? You do like times. You do like times. You identify their possible cost drivers. Identify the possible cost driver. Next, you calculate the cost driver rate. Calculate the cost driver rate. Now, how do you calculate the cost driver rate? This is a big issue for some people that have studied this topic before and didn't follow what they've known and went straight to the Pathfinder and be checking the answer. They will get confused by the table displayed in that Pathfinder because it was not detailed. So when you just jump and don't practice what you know yourself before going to look at the answers provided in the Pathfinder, you can easily get confused and get frustrated and say, am I sure I'm set for these exams? So what you know, put it down before going to check the answers in the Pathfinder. The cost driver rate is what can have the activity-based costs divided by cost driver. Take note of this. In most questions, you'll be asked to determine this. Divided by the cost driver. Activity-based cost divided by the cost driver. So please take note of this. It's very important. It's very important. So the cost driver rate is activity-based cost divided by the cost driver. The cost driver. What is the cost driver? The cost driver is the activity itself. Yes, the cost driver is the activity. What are example of cost driver? The number of orders, these are the activities. The number of material movements, these are the activity. So very quickly, I'd like us to take this example. I'll read. I already put it down in my slide, but it's unfortunate that I can't present the slide because of time. I don't like reading questions, coming to detailed questions here. So let's quickly put down this question and we solve just as a preamble to, okay, what did I say? So the question is this. Let me put it that way. Yanolua. So many people are expecting miracle towards these exams. Let me put it that way. Yanolua produces, for those that don't understand Yoruba, actually Yoruba friend is the meaning of this. It's God's miracle. So Yanolua produces two products. A and B. Two products A and B. Using, please write it down. Using similar equipment. Using similar equipment and methods. data for the last period are, we have product A, we have B, we have production in units. Please always check questions, anything in brackets. In this forthcoming exam, you see value, you see statements in brackets. Is a pointer that take note of me. Take note of me. Look at me very well. When you see anything in brackets, labor hour per unit, labor hour per unit is 1. Please always read very well. Labor hour per unit. Per unit. Again, we have machine hour per unit. Always read. Read is one of the secrets to passing these exams. You look at those words attached to the question, then you'll be able to interpret well. Machine hour per unit. Then we have set up in period. Set up in period. We have it as 15 for A and 45 for B. And we have orders handled. Orders handled in the period. We have 12 and we have 60. The point is this: overhead per period. Overhead per period. We have it relating to production, setup. The value is 179,000. And we have relating to Honda handling. Now, lest I forget, questions on activity-based costing can come in diverse ways. When I forward my slide, or the slide you have now, I forwarded a slide on the platform. You see a question I solved using another approach. The question is in ACCA study pack. So I adopted the question and I solved. So if you pick the slide, you can go through from beginning. You see some questions I solved. So we have relating to machine activity. We have this as 55,000. So total, we have it 179, 30, 55. We have it as this. Now the question is what? You are required calculate the overheads to be absorbed per units of each product based on one, we have the conventional approach, conventional absorption costing. Using labor hours. Using labor hours absorption rates. And two, an activity-based costing. Activity-based costing. That is ABC. ABC approach using suitable cost drivers. Using suitable cost drivers. This question is an ICANN adapted question. So this is on a simple note. So the question is asking us to compute overhead to be absorbed per unit. Take note, please. Per unit. Per unit. Per unit of each product based on the conventional absorption costing method using a labor hour absorption rate, an activity-based costing approach using suitable cost drivers. Yes, Kende, any question? Can you just type your question in the chat box, please? I can see your hands raised up. Odunayo Kende. All right, some people can raise up their hands in error. So this is a question. We are asked to use the conventional approach, which is same as the traditional method to prepare, to determine the absorption costing using labor hours absorption rate as the absorption rate and activity-based costing using suitable cost drivers. So to do this, so to solve this, first and foremost, that the labor hours using the conventional absorption costing method using labor hours absorption rate. Now, the labor hours in the question, how do we determine the labor hours in the question? It's clearly given that what? That's labor hour per unit is what? Is 1 for A, and for B, labor hour per unit is what? 2 hours. 2 hours. 2 hours. So for you to determine the total labor hours, what will you do? Mr. Abiodun, I can see your hand up.
They will multiply labor 1 naira by production unit.
All right, so yes, we multiply. The first step is this: labor hours labor hours for product A, we have 1 hour, and it's stated per unit. And how many units do we have for product A? It's 6,000. So the total hours required to produce 6,000 units of product A based on 1 hour will be what? Will be 6,000 hours. For product B, how many hours do we need? 1 unit. It's 2 hours. 2 hours. Multiplied by how many units are we producing?
8,000.
8,000. So overall, we're going to have it as 6,000 hours. 6,000 hours. Now, the total hours required will now be what? Total hours will be what? 22,000 hours. 22,000 hours. Now, the question is, the total overhead in the question is what? Total overhead in the question is what? Total overhead in the question is what?
Plus
264,000. Fine. I can see from the chat box, somebody's giving me the answer. 264,000. Now, the question is saying that we should calculate absorption costing using labor cost absorption rate. Oh, it's not your background is noisy. You know, you're in a family house. Your background will have to be noisy. Yes, so the total overhead cost given in the question is what? 264,000. Now the question is telling us that we should determine the overhead absorption rate using labor hours. Fine. Total overhead is what? Is 264,000. 264,000. The total hours we have is what? Is as computed above. 22,000 hours. Now, for you to get the overhead absorption rate based on labor hours, overhead absorption rate, we've defined this acronym before. Overhead absorption rate based on labor hours. What will you do? It will be what? 264,000 264,000. Let me just use this as divide. 264,000 divided by what? 22,000. So the overhead absorption rate per hour will be what? Will be 12 naira per hour. This is what you'll be paying per hour. This is what you pay per hour. So now, if this is what you pay per hour for product A, now, how much will you pay per hour based on this overhead absorption rate? Product A, we are using how many hours? We are using how many hours to produce 1 unit of product A? We are using 1 hour. So if we are using 1 hour, to produce 1 unit, how much are we going to pay for that 1 unit in terms of hours? How much are we going to pay? Is 1 hour multiplied by 12. It will be what? This will be 12. So based on 6,000 units that we are producing for product A, how much are we going to pay as total overhead based on the units? We have 6,000 units for product A. When you multiply 6,000 units by 12, we're going to have what as our overhead? We're going to have is 72,000 for product A. And for product B, we're using how many hours for product B? Is in the question, 2 hours. Multiply absorption rate per hour is what? It's 12 naira. And you multiply this, you're going to have 24. Now, if we are using 2 hours to produce 1 unit and the overhead absorption rate is 12 naira per hour, it means we're spending 24 naira to produce 1 unit of product B. Now, how much are we going to spend to produce 8,000 units? 8,000 units of product B in terms of overhead absorption rate is going to be what? 8,000 multiplied by 24 is going to be 192,000. 192,000. This is using the traditional method, otherwise known as the conventional absorption costing method, in terms of labor hour absorption rate. In terms of labor hour absorption rate. Any question regarding this? Yes, Adebayo. Can you just send your message on the chat box? Send your question there, please. Okay, Madam Dolapo, you're a co-host, right?
Yes, please. I
Okay.
just need the clarity.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I
Yes,
go ahead?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Please, from the requirements of the question, we were told to calculate the overhead to be absorbed per unit
Yes, yes,
of each of the units. Assuming
yes,
we start at 5 naira, well, once we get the overhead per unit of each of the 12 naira for product A and 24 naira for product B, not calculating the total overhead, I think we
yes,
have satisfied the requirement.
yes, yes, yes. We are okay. We are okay with that. Yes,
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
we are okay with that. This is it. This is it. So I think every gray area is cleared. I think that is what others want to ask too. So using the activity-based costing approach, using the ABC approach, we're going to look at our cost drivers now. The cost drivers. And using this approach, though it's not stated, well, we're going to use the machine hour in this case it has been clearly stated that in the first part that we should use labor hours. So in this other part, somebody might say, but it's not stated that we should use the machine hour. But in the overhead per period relating to machine activity, we are going to use the machine. Yes, we're going to use the machine for the activity-based costing. Now, the machine hour per period is what? The machine hour per unit for product A is 4, and for product B is 2. Now, same approach per unit. Anytime you see per unit, it means there's a relationship between these and the unit produced. There's a relationship between these and the unit produced. Labor hour per unit, it shows there's a relationship between these and the unit produced. So now, the machine hour per period based on the overall period we use in production, we need to determine that. Now, very quickly is what you can determine. Machine hour per unit for A is 4. 4 times 6,000 units produced for that period will give you what? For B, 2 machine hour per unit multiplied by production unit is what? Will give you 16,000. So let's determine that. That is machine hour per period for product A. We have it as 6,000 multiplied by what? By 4. We have it as 24,000. And for product B, we have it as what? As 8,000 multiplied by 2. So the result will be what? 16,000. So the total machine hour for the period will be what? 40,000. 40,000. Maybe 40,000. Now, for us to determine the cost driver rate, what are we going to do now? You look for the like times. You match the like times to each other. Now, we have production setup. For you to determine how much you pay per setup. Take note of this point, please. For you to determine how much you pay per setup, what will you do? You ask yourself, what is the total setup for both A and B? The total setup in the period for both A and B is what? 15 plus 45. You have 60. Now, for you to determine how much you pay, that is the cost driver rate now. The rate per setup will be what? 179,000 divided by 60. You have the cost per setup, and that will be the cost driver rate. Let's show that. So in the question we are going to solve, in that past question, you see similar thing like this, so that when we come there, it will be a smooth ride for you. Cost driver rate. Now, production setup. For those that have solved that question, is what you've known, but the fact that they put it in table, they're trying to determine what you know, but you're following what they've solved there. So it can be very confusing. So 179,000 divided by 60, you have what? The co-hosts, can you call this value for me? Or you are not with your calculator. Some of you don't have calculator. You buy calculator 2 days to the exams.
So 2,983
2983. This per
point
setup.
33.
Per setup. Please, if you don't have calculator, go and buy. Don't wait to 2 days to the exam. When you enter the hall, you discover the battery is bad. You're looking for who to help you with a calculator. Order handling cost. From the question, the order handling is what? The order handling. The total is what? 30,000.
30,000.
Total orders handled will be what? For the period. Take note. Please, when analyzing question, these are not values. These are not money. 12, this is not 12 naira. This is not 16 naira. See the interpretation. Orders handled in the period. For A, the total number of orders handled in the period is 12. For B, the total orders handled in the period is 60. You must interpret in that way. Now, what is the total orders in the period? 60 plus 12 is what? 72. 72. So, based on this, orders handling, the value in the question is what? 30. Now, how much are you paying per order? We've added, and it gives us 72. 30 divided by 72, we have it as what?
416. 416.66.
416.67.
Yeah, let me just put it this way. Please, in the hall, you just maintain a consistent approximation. The major thing, just know what you're doing. The next is the machine activity. The machine activity, machine cost. The machine cost. How do we treat this? Do we have anything related to machine in this? Yes. This is it. This is it. Machine hour per unit. Per unit. Because it's per unit, we've linked it to the number of units produced for A. We've linked 2 to the number of units produced for what? For B, which is 8,000. We've multiplied it. And when we treated that, the total hours in terms of machine, we derive what? Total hours in terms of machine, it's 40,000. You can see that. 40,000. So how do we now determine the machine cost per hour? How do we determine the machine cost per hour? From the overhead, the machine cost is what? 55,000.
55,000.
So to determine the machine cost per hour, it will be what? It will be, let's say, machine costs. I'm going to have it as what? 55,000 divided by what? 40,000. Then the result is what?
1.4.
1 point,
Oh.
okay, 1.4 per hour. Per hour. Now, this is the cost driver rate. Take note. This is the cost driver rate. What do I mean by this? These values you have, they are what you will pay on this activity here. How much will you pay for machine hour based on the cost driver rate? You pay how much? You pay 1.4 per hour. Based on order handling, how much will you pay per order? 417. Based on production setup, how much will you pay per setup? 2,983. The question now is, if you're going to pay this per setup, for you to determine the overhead, now, what will you do? What will you do? Since you've determined this, the drivers in relation to overhead, the question you have to ask yourself, if this is per setup, how many setup do I have for product A? How many setup do I have for product B? So overhead using ABC, so using ABC, let's say we have product A, we have product B, and we have product B. Now, setups. How much are we paying per setup? It's 2,983. How many setups do we have for product A? Check it. 15.
15.
16.
Multiply this by 15. The results will be what?
44,745.
44,745.
45.
For B, the setup will be what? The setup will be what? It will still be 2,983 multiplied by what? How many setup do we have for product B?
45.
45.
Yeah.
So 45. The result will be what? The value will be what?
135.
134.
235.
235.
Now, for orders, cost per order is what? 417. 417. How many orders do we have for product A?
12.
We have 12. So when you multiply, you have what?
5,000.
5,000.
5,000.
Now, for product B, still 417 multiplied by what? Number of orders.
60. 25,020 naira.
25,020 naira. Next one is what?
Machine.
Machine. Now, how much are we paying per hour?
1.4.
1.4. Now, the question is, how many hours do we need?
24,000 hours.
This is it for those that are just joining. We are producing 6,000 by 4. We're using 24,000 hours. 24,000 hours. And the result will be what?
33,600.
33,600. That is serious. All right. Then for this,
22,400.
1.4 multiplied by many hours are we using there? 16, right?
Yes, sir.
So we have it as what?
22,400.
22,400. So the total is what? When you add for the whole cost for the total cost, you have 44745, 5004, 33,600. The result will be what?
$83,349.
So you said what?
83,000.
83,349.
349.
349.
Yeah.
Then for B,
One 181,655.
181.
81,655.
Now the question is, we have to determine per unit, right? Calculate the overhead to be absorbed per unit for each product. Yes. So now, how do we determine the unit value for product A in terms of this?
They're going to divide by the production units.
Yes. So how many units do we have now?
6,000 for product A.
1,000.
Yes. Overhead per unit. So 6,000. So it will be 83349 divided by 6,000. You have the value for one, and for this, it will be 181,655 divided by 8,000. You have the overhead per unit. So the result will be what? For this, the value is what?
14.
14. And for this, the value is what?
I think the answer is 13.89.
Okay, 14.89.
13.89.
13.89.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's same. The marker will still mark whichever. It's approximately that. Then for this is what?
22.7.
22.7. So this is what they want us to do for that. So do you have November 2017 question? Do you have the icon Pathfinder soft copy so that you share your slide?
Oh,
You don't have it.
yeah.
Okay, who is having it on the call here in the class? So that because I'm not with my okay, Mr. Adebayo, can you share your slides, sir? Can you share your screen? Let me make you a co-host. Mr. Adebayo, can you send me a message on the chat box? Is it that you have a question, or you can share your screen with us? Yes, I forwarded the question on the platform, so we should all have it. I have the question. Okay, so can you just let me make you a co-host so that we can You can share your screen. So the question is same with that of November 2024. So I will solve this, then you solve that of last year. So some of us that wrote that exam last year and we are still here, you go and solve that question by yourself and note where you've missed it. So when you see it again, it will not be once beaten, twice shy. So, sir, you are now a co-host. You can share your screen. Yes, November last year. Then we have November 2017. November 2017. I'll be solving that of 2017. So the question can come in another way. So, Mr. Adebayo, are you there? Please, who is there? If your screen is on, you can share the screen. Your screen. Okay, sir, you can share. You're a co-host already. Just share. Okay. Can somebody read as he's trying to share? Just read if you have it from the WhatsApp. One of the co-hosts.
Let me read from here. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. XYZ Nigeria Limited is considering the use of activity-based costing (ABC) approach in its overhead recovery. It manufactures two products known as standard and deluxe. Details of production for the two products are given below: standard and deluxe. Annual production in units: for standard 24,000, for deluxe 24,000. Per unit in hours. For standard is 2 hours, for deluxe is 5 hours. Number of special parts per order. Number of special parts per unit. For standard is 2, and for deluxe is 8. Number of setup per batch. Standard is 2, for deluxe is 6. Number of sales invoiced in per year. For standard is 100, for deluxe is 480. Materials used per batch. Standard is 2, for deluxe is 2. As size units, for standard is 2,000, for deluxe is 100. Analysis of the overhead cost provided the following information. We have the serial number, overhead cost analysis, amount, and cost driver. Serial number 1, 585,600. Cost driver, number of cost setup. Number 2, special part handling costs, 480,000. Cost driver is number of special parts. Number 3, customer invoicing costs, amounting to 232,000. Cost driver, number of invoices. Number 4, material handling costs, 5,000. Cost driver, number of packets. That is number 5, 854,000. Cost driver, labor hour. The total overhead is 2,655,600 naira. Required. Using the traditional approach to determine the direct labor hour rate for the company. Direct labor hour rate to compute the overhead rate attributable to unit standard and deluxe products. C, determine the cost driver rate using IGC approach. D, the overhead rate per unit of each product using the ABC approach. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. So the question is a very clear one, but you must embrace it with the whole of your heart. The requirement one, that use the traditional approach to determine the direct labor hourly rate for the company. Use the traditional approach to determine the direct labor hourly rate for the company. That means we are asked to determine the overhead absorption rate using the direct labor hours. In the question, can you scroll up a little, sir? Let's see I'm sending the Pathfinder to this laptop. Let's see. So in terms of the traditional way to do in determining the overhead absorption rate, what we've done just now, that we are to use what? Direct labor hour. In the question, quickly locate where is direct labor hour? Direct labor time per unit in hours. See the statement, per unit in hours. You can quickly get 3 marks from this point. Hour per unit. 2 to the units produced, overall units produced. For standard, you have to relate 8 to the overall unit produced. For the loss, so for you to know the total hours used, it will be 4 multiplied by 24. 24 is the unit produced for standard. It will be 8, or it will be 5. Yes, 5 multiplied by 24 for the loss, to get the total hours for the loss. When you derive that, you add both together, you have your total hours. You have your total hours. And when you have your total hours, what do you do with the total hours? You need to look for your total overhead. Your total overhead is what? As given in the question. I asked similar question where we're solving that example. Your total overhead in this case, when you sum everything up here, is already done for you. But in the question, it might not be summed up. You need to sum it up. Know that. So you add everything, is given to us as 2,665,600. So when you determine this, for you to get your overhead absorption rate, you divide 2,665 by the total hours, by the total hours, by the total hours. So now, let me show the first step. I believe you all have the question. We all have the question. So thank you, sir. Let me present my own slide now. Let me go to the workings again and present my own slide. So we have it as solution. Solution to November 2017 question 3. Now the first requirement that we should determine, say, one, determination of absorption rate. Everybody should have worked on this by now. Should have solved this in your book using direct labor hours. Using direct labor hours. So this is the traditional method. Traditional method. The traditional method. Now, we established at the beginning of this class that to do this, it is either budgeted overhead or total overhead. Its overhead absorption rate is equal to total overhead divided by what? Total. I said divide by activity or total labor hours or machine hour, depending on what the question is pointing you to do. So total labor hours. The total labor hours is a what? Is a function of the two products. Is a function of the two products. So for you to do that now, the total overhead in this question is what? 2,665,600. Now the total hours is what? Total hours. Let's show that. The total hours now for products, for the loss or for standard. Let me show that. Standard. Total hours is equal to what? To produce 1 unit, we need 4 hours. Multiply by what? Total units for standard is what? 24,000. So the total hours will be what? 4 times 4, 16. 4 times 2, 8.
96,000.
96,000. Then for the loss, the total hours will be what?
216,000.
Total hours, we have it as these will be
120,000.
5 hours multiplied by what? 24,000. It's 120,000. So the total hours overall will be what?
216,000.
Okay, 216,000. So this is what you need to determine the overhead absorption rate. So the total overhead is this. So the total hours is 216,000. So how much are you paying? The overhead absorption rate,
12.3.
we have it as 12.3. 12.3. So the question says, using the traditional approach to determine the direct labor hourly rate for the company, 12.3 naira per hour. Per hour. Is everybody in this class, you should know how to do this. You should know how to do this. Don't get confused by anything. Yes, please. The next is use the direct labor hour rate to compute the overhead rate attributable to a unit of the standard. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Let me go there now. And sorry, let me just locate the question so I can always interchange. Too many standard.
Just
Oops.
type November 2017 to come, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So the question that use the direct labor hour rate, to compute the overhead rate attributable to a unit of standard and the loss products. So the direct labor hour rate, direct labor hour rate computed now is what? 12.3 naira per hour. So how many hours do we need for 1 unit of standard? Is as this. The products, I like to present this in the table. So we have it as this standard. We have the loss. Now, the direct labor hours per unit in the question is what? This is it. Direct labor time per unit in hours, 4, 5, standard, the loss. So we have it as this. Direct labor hours per unit. For standard is what? For the loss is what? 5. Now, from our computation, the direct labor rate per hour based on the overhead absorption rate computed, direct labor rate per hour is what? 12.3. Is 12.3. So the overhead per unit will be what? Overhead per unit will be what? Can you help me out, please? Because of these
49.2.
49.2. And for this, 5, this should be 60.
61.5. 61.5.
51.5.
Yeah, 61.5. So this is the overhead per unit. That's use the direct labor rate to compute the overhead rate attributable to a unit of standard and the loss. So this is it, overhead per unit. Overhead per unit. I believe everybody should be able to do this. The next point where there are some little complication is C and D. But there's no any complication there. C and D. We just show the workings. Determine the cost driver rate using the ABC approach. Using the ABC approach. We present a formula that when you're asked to do the ABC approach, what do you need to do? The activity-based cost divided by the cost driver. Activity-based cost divided by what? The cost driver divided by the cost driver. So now let's quickly see what we can do about that. Let's see what we can do about that. Now, that is the C parts. The C parts that determine cost driver rate using the ABC approach. Okay. That is in C. Determination of cost driver rate. Cost driver rate using ABC approach. Using ABC approach. Now, you must know this. Cost driver rate is equal to what? Activity based costs divided by activity. Divided by activity. Now, this is it. Overheads relating to let me put a colon here. The first activity we have in the question is setup. Setup. So overhead relating to setup costs. Setup costs. Setup costs. Overhead relating to setup costs. Before then, there are certain interpretation we must know in this question. Now let's look at setup. Let's look at setup. That setup cost is this. Now, that number of setup per batch is what? Is 2, right?
Yes, sir.
For the standard. For the loss, number of setup is what? Is 6.
6.
6. Number of setup per batch. See another statement. Batch size in units. Batch size in units. It means there is a relationship between number of setup per batch, batch size in units, and annual production in units. There is a link between these 3 items. Now, for you to know the interpretation of batch size in units, it means that one batch will make up of what? 2,000 units for standard. One batch for the loss will make up what? 100 units. For you to have 24,000 units, you ask yourself, how many batch will make 24,000 units? How many batch will make 24,000 units? Now, when you know the number of batch, you now ask yourself, number of setup per batch. How many setup will make a batch? Or how many batch will make a setup? So the point is this. For you to know the number of batches that will make, you can get from 24,000 units, what will you do? It will be 24,000 divided by 2,000. You will know the number of batches you can obtain from standard. For the loss, for you to know the number of batches, it will be 24,000 divided by what? 100. You know the number of batches. Now, when you know the number of batches, the number of setup per batch will now be what? Number of setup per batch. If you are using per batch, if you are having 2 setup per batch for standard, and you're having 6 setup per batch for the loss, overall, what will be the number of setup? What will be the number of setup based on the batch? Let's show the working. Let's show the working. Let me show the working here. So let me say calculation of number of batches for standard. It will be what? We have how many units? 24,000 units. Now, batch size in unit is what? See the flow. Batch size in unit is what? For standard, it's 2,000, right? When you divide this, you're going to have what? This cancel that. You have 12 batches. 12 batches. But the loss is what? How many quantity unit do we have for the loss? Is 24. Batch size in units is what? In the question is 100. Is 100. So how many batches will you have for the loss? 24,000 divided by 100 should be 240. 240 batches. 240 batches. Now the question is saying that for you to know the number of setups per batch, standard is having 2 setups per batch. The loss is having 6 setups per batch. Now you have 12 batches for standard. How many setups will you have? One of the co-hosts. How many setups will you have for standard?
24.
Okay, we're going to have 24. Let's see. Number of setups. Number of setups. Number of setups. For standard, it's what? We have 12 batches multiplied by per setup is 2. Per batch is 2 setup. Now, overall, we're going to have 24 setup. 24 setups for standard. For the loss, it will be what? For the loss,
6 times 240.
we have 6.
Okay.
6 setup per
Times
batch.
240.
And we have how many
1,040.
batches? We have
240
240 batches. So overall, how many setup are we going to have? 1,040
1,040.
setups. So in total, what will be the total setup?
1,464.
Total setup will be equal to 1,464. This is the total setup. Now, for you to know the setup cost in relation to the overhead, what will you do? What will you do? That is, we're trying to determine the cost driver rate now. The cost driver rate. Now, the setup cost in the question is what? 585,600. So for you to know the cost driver rate, per setup, the cost driver rate, what will you do? For you to know the cost driver rate, what will you do? It will be what? 585,600 divided by what? The number of setup. The number of setup. So setup cost is what? 585,600 divided by what? The total number of setup is what? 1,464. 1,464. So the result will be what?
400.
400. 400. Now, I want the class to help me determine the next one. I will give room for everybody to talk. I'm going down to talk. The next one would be what? From the question.
Special handling.
Yes, number of special parts per unit. So special part handling cost. Special part handling cost. What is the cost driver? Number of special parts. Number of special parts. Now, in this data here, number of special parts per unit. Can you see it? Per unit. Anytime you see per unit, just link it to the annual production in unit. To annual production in unit. Now, the number of setup or the number of special parts per unit will be what? Since it's in relation to units, what are we going to do? What are we going to?
We multiply.
All right, we multiply. We multiply that by the units. That is special parts handling. Special part handling. So the workings is, let me just show the workings. Standard. For standard, based on the question, it is related to units. So we have 2 handling related to units. The unit for standard is what? 24,000. Now, the value, the number of special part handling will be what overall? For standard, 48. For the loss, it will be what?
24,000 times 8.
It will be, yes, 6
24,000.
multiplied by 24. We have it as what? As 144,000. So the total activity, the total handling, yes, the total number of special parts per unit will be what?
Yes, sir. It's not 6. It's 8, not 6. Sir.
Okay. Okay, this one is 8, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So the total will be what? 48 by 144.
190.
Okay,
192,000.
192,000. So this is the total
No,
of
sir.
special parts.
No. The deluxe 8 by 24 is 190. The total will be 240.
Okay, the total will be 240. Okay. So this is 192.
Yes, sir. 190.
Please, can we confirm?
Yes, sir. It's correct. The total will be
Yes.
240.
Okay, 240. Okay, 240. So now, so the special handling, this is 240. Now, for you to get the cost driver rate, what will happen now?
We divide by the cost driver.
Yeah, so the total cost in relation to special part handling is what? The amount.
480,000.
So 480,000 divide by what? By 240. So the rate, the cost driver rate will be what?
2.
Cost driver rate will be 2. Be 2. Anybody in this class, I don't know what we are doing. Can I see your hands up? Anybody in this class, you are not on same page with us? Let's see your hand up. Because you have to solve the next question before you go to bed tonight. So that when you start solving, you won't say, everything in that same question is what is here. Everything there is, they just change figures. They change figures. So we are how many here? 168. So I want to see 168 solutions. I don't mind. Send them to my DM. I don't mind. The aim is that you have to know it. Yes, I don't mind that. You are not disturbing me. So that's reduced to 164. So we have to work. So that is it. So this is it for special handling cost. Now, the next is what? The next is customer invoicing cost. Customer invoicing cost. Customer invoicing cost. Customer invoicing cost. The cost driver is what? Number of invoices. Number of invoices. I want somebody to speak to this. What will happen in relation to this? Not the co-host now. Let's have somebody from the general house speak to this. Let me give access to everyone. Please, if you want to speak to this, can you raise up your hand? Okay, Chinyere. Chinyere, can you just speak to this? What will happen?
Okay. So I didn't understand the computation from determination of cost driver rate.
I'm asking a question that you should speak to what we are trying, and the response I'm getting is alarming. Because I asked a question that if you're in this class and you don't know what we are doing, that you should signify. But Mban, you didn't signify. And now I said, can somebody explain what will happen to the invoicing aspects? And you're giving me a very good message. So that is fine. So please kindly put your message on the chat box, please. That place you don't understand, somebody is there to respond to you. Put your message on the chat box. Yeah, put your question there on the chat box. Because, okay, thank you very much. I've been seeing responses related to the question I asked on the chat box. So, talking about the customer invoice now, number 3. Chinyere, put your question in the chat box. If nobody responds, then I'll respond. Because I have already gave room for that, but you said, Umban, you want us to hear your voice. Customer invoicing. So, customer invoicing cost. The cost driver is what? Number of invoices. You come here. Number of sales invoices issued per year. For standard is 100. For the loss is 480. This is not related to units. So per year for the whole period is given. For standard is 100. For the loss is 480. So when you add both together, the total number of invoice will be what? 100 plus 480. 100 plus 480. Let me write that so that we'll not have story later. So number of invoice. Number of invoice. We have standard is equal to what? 100. The loss is equal to what? 480. Total is what? The total will be 580. 580. Total will be 580. So now, if the total is 580, how much are we spending on customer invoicing? It's 232,000. 232,000. So what will happen now at this point? 232,000. For you to get the cost driver rate, it will be what? 232,000 divided by what? 580. Divided by 580. And the result will be what? Co-host, help me out.
400.
The result will be 400. That is the cost driver rate. Simple as that. 4. But if you are going to look at the solution in the Pathfinder, you just be confusing yourself. You're following it's same thing, it's same workings. But there's nobody to tell you what is happening there. So you just be looking back and forth, and these people are wicked. Material handling cost is the next thing. Material handling cost. The determinant is what? The cost driver is what? Number of batches. Number of batches. Number of batches. I'll need to ask a question at this point. Material handling costs. Material handling cost. Now, how are we going to treat this? That's the cost driver is what? Number of batches. Now, what is the total number of batches we have? The co-host, you can help me out.
For standard, we have 12.
Yes. And for the loss,
We have 240.
That's true.
so total number of batches. Like PIBA. See it. Like PIBA. This one like this. When you add the two, you have 252. That is the total number of batches. It's a direct one. There's no need to stress yourself. Material handling cost. How much are we spending on it? 504,000 divided by number of batches. So 504,000 divided by what? 252. The result will be what?
2,000.
2,000. 2,000. The next is what? Other overheads. Other overheads. And what is the cost driver? Labor hours. Labor hours. Labor hours. And now, let me still call somebody to tell me what to do from the general house. Chinye, write your question on the chat box, please. Somebody said, but we have number of separate materials issued in the question. Number of separate material issued per batch. Number of separate materials issued per batch. Okay, and that is not an issue. That is not an issue. It's number of separate materials issued per batch. All right, let me just go straight to the question I need to ask. That for other overheads, the cost is 864. 864,000. So how do we get the cost driver rates now for other overheads? How do we get the cost driver rates now? How do we get the cost driver rate? Let me call
The
somebody.
product,
Don't worry, ma. Let me engage the house. Adetunji Temitope. That is my name. Let me. Please don't begin to ask questions at this point. It's me that is asking questions. So Adetunji Temitope, can you just tell us what will happen at this point? You don't want us to hear your voice. Okay, somebody can speak to that. Some people don't like.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
So for that overhead, since they said that our cost driver is labor hour, so we are going to use the labor hour. So we are going to use direct labor time per unit in hour. So we are going to use that 4 and 5. We are going to multiply it as usual with the product. They will divide it by the other overhead cost. That's 864,000 divided by the total of the two standard and the lowest. That's 24 times 4, 24 times 5. Right? Then add it together, divide, then you get your overhead.
All right. Thank you very much. And that is it. And that is it. So the other overheads will be 864,000. Since it's based on labor hours, the total labor hours is what? Is 216,000. How do we get that? It's 4 multiplied by 24,000, 5 multiplied by 24,000. You add both together, you have 216. You have 216. You have 216,000. When you divide, you're going to have what? You should have
4.
4. Yeah, you should have 4. Now, still on a question, we have these. This is the overhead cost analysis. Yes, these are the overhead cost analysis. These are what we are concerned about. So somebody should respond to a question I saw on the chat box. The person is saying, we have this number of separate materials issued per batch. Number of separate material issued per batch. Can anybody speak to this? Is this relevant? What is this telling us? Yes?
It's not relevant
So why is it not relevant?
because of the cost driver.
Because there is no cost driver.
Because there is no overhead
Related to
attached
that,
to
the
it.
cost driver
All right, thank you very
is
much.
actually related to that in this question.
All right, thank you very much. So sometimes figures can be presented to you. Don't start to panic. We have not used this thing. Am I heading the right way at all? It's not everything you see in a question that is relevant. Yes, it's not everything. So don't just do what you know. Do what you know, and you will pass. But by the time you begin to panic, but this figure, am I not supposed to use it? Just go direct. Don't look back. Yes, don't look back. Yes, Raliat Musa, you have a question.
So I wanted to ask, based on what you just said about this material issued per badge, if I understand you well now, you're trying to say that when we are, since they said the cost driver is number per badges, we are only going to take the total of number of badges. That is after we do the division. Then we'll now add it together for the two products. Then we'll now divide it with our material. Then, but when we want to compute the when we want to do allocation, we are going to, that's when we are going to use these two. We are going to multiply it by the how they calling it? No, I'm confused. The OAR, that's the CDR, the cost driver rate, the cost driver rate. Is that what you're trying to say? I don't know if you understand me. So.
Okay, I'm trying to digest that. I'm trying to. That is when we're trying to compute the overhead absorption rate, right?
Yes, because me, I was thinking that we are supposed to multiply it, but now you are saying that is irrelevant.
Yes, based on what we
No, I
just
was
saw.
not. So me, I'm not thinking that it's not that it's totally irrelevant, because when we want to do allocation, we are supposed to multiply it by the
Yes.
OAR to get our.
We're going to yes, we're going to make use
Okay.
of it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But based on the cost driver now, in relation to the cost driver, there is nothing to match it with. Understand? Yes, so it's not. So now let's determine the overhead rate per unit for each product. What we've done now is the cost driver. So determination of overhead rates per unit of each product.
Please, I have a question.
Ask your question.
Daddy, please, how do you get overhead per unit? The 49.2 and 61.5. Sorry.
Sorry, what is your question, please?
How do we get overhead per unit? The 49.2 and 61.5. How do we get that?
This
Yes.
direct labor rate per hour multiplied by direct labor hours per unit. You have this. Maybe let me put multiplication here.
And the second question.
Yeah, some of these questions you should have put it on the chat box. See,
I put it there, but no one replied the message.
All right,
So.
what is the second question? Very fast.
The second question, when we are calculating special handling cost, we are doing multiplication, and I expected that we should do multiplication on custom invoicing and the rest, but here is just division. I'm confused. So that is the only question I have for now.
Special handling cost. When you go to the question, what is the question saying about special handling cost? Special part handling cost, number of special parts. From the question is what? Number of special parts per unit. Per unit. So this is related to what? To units. So for you to know the total number of special parts, it will be what? 2 by 24 and 8 by 24. So you know the total special parts. Then when you get that, then you divide by the overhead value, the total overhead value for special part handling cost. I don't know if that is fine.
Yes, fine, thank you.
All right. So determination of, let's see what to do now. Let's use the table.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Please, I have a question. Though I've asked in the message, but I didn't get a clarification. How do we get the 12,240 that give us 252 under
12.
material handling?
Okay, this 252. This 252, sir. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is it, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I highlighted it at this point when I was trying to explain. that material handling, the associated value related to that is what? Number of batches. Number of batches. Then we ask ourselves, how many batches do we have? For standard 12, for the loss 240. So 12 plus 240 will give us what? How many batches? 252, sir. That's
Hello,
it.
sir.
So are we not supposed to multiply with the number of setup?
No, sir. Material handling costs. See the interpretation, sir. Material handling cost. Number of batches. Number of batches. How many batches do we have? If you followed from beginning, sir, how many batches, sir?
So we should just ignore the two and the 6 that is there, and make use of only the batches, which is 240, 624 divided by 2000 and 24 divided by 100.
Sir, these 2 and 6, sir, is number of setup
Yes,
per batch, setup per batch. But how many batch do you have in 24,000 units, sir?
it's 12.
Good. How many batch do you have for the loss in 24,000 units?
That's 240.
240. So now, batch is standing independently now at this point. The number of batches, total number of batches you have is what? 12 plus 240,
12,
right?
yes.
So number of batches, this is not linked to setup now. Now, when you are trying to link batches to setup, that number of setup per batch, it means how many batch or how many setup will you have in a batch? That is the interpretation of this. Number of setup per batch. Do you get that, sir?
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Let me round up. Let me complete what I'm trying to discuss. You have question, you ask your question, don't worry. Yes. Overhead rate per unit of each product using ABC approach. We have standard and we have the loss. We have standard, we have the loss. Now, determination of overhead rate per unit. Now, for setup now, setup costs. For setup costs. For standard, we are having how many setup? For standard. How many setup do we have? See it here. See it. 24 setup. For the loss, how many setup? 144.
440.
Yes. So for you to get the rates now.
Sir, please, I have a question in this setup. Biko.
Yes, I'm with you. Please click on.
Okay. Setup here. My network cut when you are working on it. I thought what we'll do, that is 2 plus 6 equals to 8. We'll now divide it over total overhead of setup, which is 585,600. Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with you.
So, but the way you work it is different.
Yes.
Unlike
The interpretation
I don't know if you understand what I'm
so your
saying.
network, there was a break in your network, but let me
Hello?
just assume. Yes, there was a little break in your network, but let me assume I comprehend your statement. So, number of setup per batch. Number of setup per batch. You are saying we should just add 2 plus 6, right?
Yes, sir.
And do what? And say 2/8 multiply by what?
Yes, sir.
Multiply
The,
by,
the overhead of setup. Like
yes,
we'll do it the way we did.
the way
Hello?
we've done it. Yes, I'm with you. Hello.
Like I was saying, I thought, hello?
Yes, we can
I
hear
thought
you.
we would do it 2 plus 6 equals to 8. Then we'll use the overhead cost of setup to divide it by the total number of setup, which is 8. So my question and confusion is this. Why are we doing it at 24 over 2,000? That means 24,000 divided by 2,000 equals to 12. Why? That's why I'm confused.
Now, looking at this now, this setup, is it just setup? Is it just number of setup? If it is number of setups without per batch, the story would have been different. But this setup is depending on batch. It's relying on batch. So you must know how many batch do you have. See the English, number of setup per batch. It means setup is not on its own. It is the number of batch that determines the setup. I don't know if this English is clear. It is the number of batch that determines the setup. So without batch, there is no setup. So that is
Okay,
why
sir.
we are solving the way we are solving. If per batch is not there, the working is different. Yes. If you look at the first example we solved, we just added the two values, right? The two values of
Okay,
setup,
sir.
and we divided. But now the story is now number of setup per batch. Per batch. So you must know how many batch you have in standard. Then you now multiply this setup 2 by it. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So please, in this activity-based costing, is this interpretation that is very important. You must be able to interpret these words. You must be able to interpret them. Yes. By the time you don't know how to interpret them, you juxtapose the whole thing. So please, the interpretation is key at this point. So setup cost based on overhead rates per unit. What are we going to do now? The total setup for standard is what? Is what? 24. Now, based on the driver rate, one setup is what? The value of one setup based on cost driver is what?
400.
Is 400. Is 400. So the total cost of setup for standard will be what?
9,600.
600.
9,600.
600.
So for you to get for 1 unit, what will you do? For you to get for 1 unit, what will you do?
Divide by the
You
unit.
divide by the
unit.
number of output.
The result will be what? Yes, the result will be what?
0.4.
0.4, right?
Yes.
Now for the loss, the total number of setup is what?
1,000.
Now the cost driver rate, how much? 400. 400. So overall,
506,000.
Okay, 500 and
It's 576,000. 76.
576. Can you just call the value, please?
576,000.
Okay, 076. So
No, please. 576,000.
576,000.
76, something like this.
No, sir. 576.
So divide by the units. So we have it as what?
20.
Maybe 24. So the next is what? Is special part handling. Special parts handling. Special part handling cost. So at this point now, the special part handling cost is what? In terms of the cost driver, is 2. Is 2. Special part handling cost. The special part handling cost is 2. So the number of special parts per unit, this is already given per unit. So we don't need to divide by 24,000 again. So number of special parts per unit is what? Is given as what? For standard, is given as 2. This is it, please. Number of special parts per unit, 2. For standard, for the loss is 8. So we have it as 2. And when you multiply, it's already given per unit. So we don't need to divide by 24 for the loss. It will be what? It will be 2 by what? By 8. So we have it as what? As 16. We have it as 16. So the next is customer invoicing. Customer invoicing cost. Customer invoicing cost. Customer invoicing cost. Now, from the cost driver, the value is what? The rate is what? The rate is
400.
400.
400. Customer invoicing cost. The rate is 400. The rate is 400. So it is based on what now? Number of sales invoices issued per year. Issued per year. But take note, we are working based on per unit, right? So number of sales invoices issued per year. For standard is 100, for the loss is 40. So this is going to be what? For standard issued per year is going to be 400 by what? By 100. By 100. And it will be what? This will be 40,000.
40,000.
Divide by what? To get it per unit, you divide it by what? 24. The result will be what? 1.6. For the loss, what will happen? Still 400 multiplied by what? The customer invoice for the loss is what? 480. Then we have it as what?
192,000. 192,000.
All right. You said 190 what one?
192,000.
192,000. So divide by what? 24. We have it as 8. Customer invoicing cost. The next is material handling cost. Material handling costs. What is happening here? Material handling cost 2,000. That is the cost driver rate by, what is the question saying? Material handling cost, number of batches.
12.
12 batches. So based on the number of batches, 12, the value is what?
24,000.
24,000. When you divide by the units, you have what?
1.
1. And for the loss, it will be what? 2,000 by what?
2,000 times 240.
By 240. Since we're talking about it is batches now. 240. The result will be what?
480,000.
480,000. Divide by what?
24,000. That's 20.
The result will be what? 20. Next is what?
Other overheads.
Other overheads. Other overheads. The result is what here? We have 4.
We have 4.
Please, the background is noisy.
We have 4. Other overheads, we have 4. And it is on the basis of labor hours. And since you are working per unit, the labor time per unit in hours for the standard is 4, for the log is 5. So 4, this will be 4 times 4.
16.
And coming to this point, it will be what? It will be 4 by 5 is equal to what?
20.
So now, what are we to do? What do we need to do now? We have to add this total, this unit cost we derive. We have to add everything.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
What
yes.
There is
be.
error in material handling.
Yes.
Okay, material handling. What is the result?
It's supposed to multiply by 24, not 12.
Okay, for this,
Yeah.
that is 2,000 multiplied by 12.
It's supposed to be 24, not 12.
Why?
It's 20. It's 12 batches.
Multiply by, it's supposed to multiply 12 by 2, that will give us 24. Go and take back the question.
Because we already have our number of batches. It's even part of the calculation up there. We have 12.
See it here, sir.
We have 12 and 240. We've calculated it already. It's 12. It's
So,
12.
sir, it's 12, sir. So now, the total unit cost for standard is what? You add 0.4 plus 4 plus 1.6 plus 1 plus 16. The
Sir,
total.
can we check the other overhead again, sir? The last one that you just did.
Okay.
Because we have
This
total
is,
number.
this is it. Based on your cost driver, what do you have? Based on the cost driver,
Where
is what? Based on the cost driver, other overheads. See it here, 4, right?
yes, sir.
Now, what is driving this other overhead?
Production units.
See it, labor hours.
Labor
Now, to produce 1 unit, we are working based on units. How many hours do you need for standard? 4.
4.
To produce the loss, how many hours do you need for 1 unit? 5. 6. 6, 4 times 4, 16. 4 times 5, 20. That is how we arrive at this. Is it clear, sir? Is it clear?
It's not still clear, sir.
It's not clear.
Okay, yes, it's fine, sir. It's fine.
All right. And
thank you, sir. It's fine.
All right. So please, even after this class, don't mind me. I said you have to solve before you sleep. Please, you can go and sleep. Even after this class, please, before you solve the other question, still go through this one. Try and solve this one on your own. And when you solve this one on your own, you now go and solve the other one. Now, one thing is this thing is a learning process. Even when you try solving this one, you experience some hitches on the way. That is not to mean that you don't know it. Yes, you don't just pick a question and expect to solve it directly and you start getting angry with yourself. No, don't do that. When you start solving it, you experience some challenges. Does not mean you are not intelligent. You're a genius, but you sometimes then just feel as, let me pick a question and solve direct. No, it does not work that way. Sometimes the first time you are seeing it, you might have some hiccups. But even this question, solve it on your own again. Every question we've solved in this class, please solve them on your own. Don't assume you have the figures on your head. PM does not work like that. Solve it. When you solve it, you make mistake, then you work on your mistake. When you see it in the exam, you know, I made mistake at this point. Let me guide against that mistake in this exam hall. But when you think it's just a smooth ride like that, it's not always like that. So go and solve this question again and follow the various statements as they are. Then you'll be fine. So this total costs per unit, the overhead cost per unit for standard is what? The unit cost.
23. 23.
Okay, this is 23. And this will be what?
23.06.
88.06.
And this will be what?
88.
88.
88. So please, this is what is the question saying? Let's see. That compute the overhead rate per unit. Now somebody is asking. Somebody will be asking, why are we working per unit? See it in the question. Compute the overhead rate per unit of each product using the ABC approach. Using the ABC approach. This is what we've done. They say determine the cost driver rate using the ABC approach. 10 marks. This is free of charge. And compute the overhead rate per unit of each product. Now let's now go to the other one I asked you to solve now. Let's now see. Let me see.
Hello, sir. Sorry, sir. Before we move to the other one,
Yes.
I have sir, you know, when you solve the number one example for the A and B that you used as example,
Yes, ma'am.
why we want to determine the cost driver rate? we just calculate it, put the total together, because it divides the overall with the number of output.
Sorry,
Do
can
you
you come again?
understand me, sir? I said, when we solve for the first example that you did for us, A and
Yes,
B, the one you
yes,
demonstrated,
yes,
when we got to the cost driver rates, when
yes,
we were doing the overhead absorption per unit, we have to
yes,
put all the total together, the total cost, like a product A, the total
yes,
cost, product B, the
yes,
total, we put it together, and at the end of the day, we aggregate the total cost and divide it by output per unit, how are the
yes,
total number of output.
yes,
But here now, you solve it separately now, and later you added it together.
yes,
In the exam scenario, if we use any of the two, provided aggregated it together, are we good to go?
yes, ma. Yeah, very good to go, ma.
Is okay,
Yes,
sir. Thank you, sir.
I'm good to go. So pass this course and move forward. Nobody should come to this class again next night. It's the layout. You have to read and pass. I don't want to hear daddy again in this class next diet. We pass. So that is November 2024.
This is
November.
not it, sir.
Ma?
The one you are displaying, the one you are displaying is not it, bro.
Yes, I'm still trying to locate it. I'm doing a search. Yes, see it. Okay, then. Hope Chinyere is still in class. So this is it. This is the question. It's just same question, but there is just a little addition. A little addition. What is that addition? This is the addition. That
Hello, sir.
if
Sorry, sir. Hello, sir.
yes, you can speak on that.
I'm sorry to intrude, sir. I think I overheard somebody was pointing at a number of separate material issue per batch the other time, that she
Yes.
said is going to be used while doing something. And initially you told us it's not relevant, and she was like, is it that it's not totally, is it totally irrelevant, or we are still going to use it? But you did not remember to talk about it again.
Yes. Number of separate materials issued per batch. Number of separate materials issued per batch. Now, the number of separate materials issued per batch is a statement telling us that in relation to batches, in relation to batches now, in relation to batches, there are two forms of materials that are issued in relation to batches. Now, in this question, talking about materials in relation to batches, there is no point. There is no point here. Material handling cost, number of batches, separate materials issued by batch. There is no any point here. Yes. When I responded to her the other time, I was thinking we were going to use it in relation to special handling cost. Yes, but it is not relevant. It's not relevant. So I was relating it to thinking we're going to use it with special handling costs, but it is not relevant from every point of indication. So no need to talk about it. So my earlier response was very clear that this is not relevant. So that is it. Is that clear, man?
Yes, sir. It's clear, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
So in relation to this question, I was saying that the addition, the only difference is this, that if the unit material and labor cost for the product are shown below, determine their unit selling prices where the company adheres to a policy of 20% profit margin using the two overhead absorption methods. So you assume it's an exam and they've added this to it. You try and solve. So the point is this, they are everything is just change of figures. Change of figures. You can see it's change of values. So please, if you have strengths, you can go through it tonight. I know it's not easy to read. Yes. I know you are doing a great job. Yes. The Lord is your strength. So just keep doing it. And it will be a story someday. Please let me see your questions in the chat box. And some people just like talking so that everybody will hear them. So at this point, let me just see your questions in the chat box. Yes, somebody is raising up a hand. Please type your question in the chat box, please. So I kindly show the slide of the last solution again. The slide of the last solution. Yes, this is it. I'm on it, please. Yes. Please show C calculation. So I kindly show the slide again. Please, about the unit selling price, please expatiate more on it, please. Is it the unit selling price or unit cost? You know, there's a difference between cost and selling price. This is the cost to you that you are producing. The selling price
So
is
I
about,
believe he's talking about the assignments that you gave us. The OKK them, the C part of it.
okay, that if the unit material and labor costs for the product are shown below, determine the unit selling prices where the company adheres to a policy of 20% profit margin. There was a question we treated in this order. It's not this class. Yes, when we're talking about, is it linear programming and limiting factor, there was a question that the company's policy is 20% of this. Okay, I don't think it's this class. The companies. So what's this connote is that for you to determine the selling price, once you know your total cost, 20% on your cost will be your profit. Then you add that profit element to your cost to get your selling price. So that is the interpretation of this 20% profit margin. When you get your costs, that is for you to get your cost now, you must know your overhead. You need to know your overhead. For Alpha, for 400 plus 100, what is the overhead value you will get? You add it. 20% on it, you add it, you get your revenue, your selling price. Selling price minus that total cost will give you the profit margin. For BTAM, 500 plus 125 plus the overhead you will compute for, and you add it, 20% on it, you get the profit plus the cost, you get the selling price, and that is what they want you to do at this point. So yes, I did mine like that. The answers were the same with his own. So if we add, okay, can you share your worksheet after the class? Yes, very well. I'll share it. Yes. So Tomorrow, God's willing, let me tell you my plans. The plan is to talk about variance analysis. I've asked everybody to put their question on the chat box, please. I'll be talking about variance analysis, God's willing. I trust God for strength. And the class is officially supposed to come to an end tomorrow, but I'm not going to call it bring it to a close tomorrow. I need to talk about EVA and NOPAT, economic value added and net operating profit after tax. I will need to create a class for that, and if I have the time, we'll talk about cost volume profit analysis. Then there is this topic we talked about during the normal classes. What is it called? Relevant costing. I explained very well during the normal classes, and I will look for the video and forward to the platform. Then please, the assignment question I gave during that normal classes, so many people didn't attempt it, and if you didn't follow them, I'll send the video. Please, you watch the video and see how you can solve questions on relevant costing. Please take that topic very important, serious, and understand the basic discussed in the video. Once you know the basic, the idea, any relevant costing questions that you are served with, you'll be able to solve. So it's just for you to know the logic. And once you know the logic, very fine. So by the time we do all this, I believe would have been fine with these diets and every other thing you can read that will come your way. Do well to read them and will experience good success. So trust God to meet by 8 a.m. again, 8 p.m. tomorrow again, and let's see what we can do. So I'm solving the question. When I work overnight, I'll see if any question will solve. I can forward the question. Then for preliminary, we'll talk about basic variance. Then we'll move ahead. We'll grow into it and see if we can talk about little parts of the question we'll solve entails basic and advanced variance, so that we know that we have a comprehensive knowledge of variance. Then talking about NOPAT and EVA, then cost volume profit analysis. For the transfer pricing video I forwarded, please, if you've not watched it, try and watch it. It's very important. And for the theoretical questions, you should have been through reading them by now and go over it again, so that once you see any question relating to the theory, you'll be able to solve. You don't leave theory unsolved. To me, they are always bonus. That's why I don't talk about theories in my class. It's more of calculations. So you should be able to answer theoretical questions very well. And you should strategize how you want to answer your question in the exam hall. It's very important. Have a plan. Have a game plan. Am I starting with number 7? Am I starting with number 6? If you know you don't have strength enough, don't go and start with number 1 and spend the whole time there. Yes, strategize. As you go to the hall, have a plan. Have a plan. When you have a plan, you are winning already. But when you don't have a plan, you are just walking to the exam hall anyhow. You're even going late to the exam hall. Last day, somebody was sleeping, almost missing the exams. Understand? So don't overread and sleep, and the exam is going on and you're at home. So have a plan, please. This is how I want to answer my questions. So once I step into the hall, with the help of God, this is how it's going to go. But when you don't have a plan, you're just going like that. Today is PM. Let's go and see what they will have for us again. So you are not winning. So when you want to win, you plan. You have a strategy. Then you overcome this course and every other course you want to write. So please, if you can attend this question, okay, them these nights. Me too, I'll still be awake. So I'll be ready to receive your solution. 180, put your question on the chat box, please. Chukwemeka, put your question on the chat box. That the theoretical questions, please resend it because I didn't see it. Investment appraiser, please. Transfer pricing. So let's see how it goes. It depends on my time. There are many things to talk about, but it's all about time. So class, I'll have to go now.
Sorry, sir, before you go, just a quick one, sir.
Yes, ma. Speak on, ma.
Hello, sir. Please, sir, this C part of them. Since we have 20% profit margin, will it be necessary for us to convert it to markup since we are having cost?
20% profit margin. So when you want to convert to markup, what will you do, ma? When you convert it to markup,
It's going to be 20 over 100 minus 20. So it will be 1 over 4 multiplied by the total cost. Now get our profit.
no, ma. Don't do that.
Okay.
Straight to don't apply those. Just go straight and look for. You understand, ma?
I can't
20%
hear
of that.
you, sir.
I said you go straight and look for of the costs. Yes. If approach in doing that, a very long approach. So you just apply 20% on the cost and get your selling price directly without any much. Yes, going by that approach is when you are trying to solve in FI and trying to get the value of cost of unrealized profits on goods sold, and we're trying to do all those approach. So for this, ma,
Yes, sir.
just
Network.
get your value, material costs, your labor costs, get your overhead, everything. You should have a value. Then 20% of that value you add to the total cost, then you get your selling price. That's 1/4 approach. Yes, 1/4 of what you have might not give you the right answer. Yes, that is 20%. It will give you the right answer. Yes, to give you 20 all over 100 is what? Is 5.
That's 0.0. Yes, 5.
So it should give you same results. Should give you same results. So just go direct, ma. In PM, just go direct and solve what you need to solve. Don't do any extra.
Okay.
Yes. That's what are the strategies to go to the exam hall with? Please, can you help share the question on WhatsApp group? So, please, if you have questions, you can forward them to the group. Some people have solved them already. They will provide answers to your questions. So, once you have questions, you are having difficulty in solving any question, send to the WhatsApp group. Some people have already solved. Some people have finished solving the whole Pathfinder. Yes. So, and please, when you see people solving, it's not that they are trying to intimidate you. They are just trying to share knowledge so that when you have issues, you can benefit. And when you don't know, you can ask. Yes, that is the essence of the platform. That is why I didn't close the platform. And that is why I'm always putting some messages on the platform to make the place active and to see that everybody is carried along. So please, when you have questions, you have trouble with the question, send to the platform. If I'm free, I will look at it. But most times I might not be free. But I know there are other persons that have attempted it. Yeah, some people have gone to certain tuition centers, they've solved some things. Some people have gone to different places. Some people have been writing, they have solutions to various questions. So please, we are having challenge, forward to the platform. I might not be the one to respond. Somebody else that have idea can respond. So just feel free and all will be fine. So that's I was thinking same thing too. Converting the margin to markup will be 25% markup. This is because 20% margin, the question referred to is on selling price. So we don't have the selling price. Okay, that 20% profit margin. Selling price is where the company adheres to the policy of 20% profit margin using the overhead costs. Okay. All right. So just solve. Let's see. We fine. So I'll be expecting your solution. Let's see. So let's call it a night. Night.
Good night, sir. Thank you.